This video is sponsored by Raycon.
This video contains flashing lights and colors.
Universal has built some truly incredible rides over the years. Velocicoaster, Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, that's a mouthful, and many others immediately come to mind. On the other hand, they've also had their fair share of duds. A few days ago, I asked my viewers which ones they thought were the worst. Now, some of these rides aren't complete disasters, they just missed the mark in some big ways. Others, though, are the kind of attractions you ride once and immediately regret. So in this countdown, we'll start off with the ones that aren't that bad before finally hitting the bottom of the barrel. Now keep in mind, my user base is largely the US, and the poll results reflect that. This means I won't get to talk about the more obscure bad attractions located in other countries, but Poseidon Entertainment did an excellent video on that and I'll link it in the description. So everybody, let's get cracking. Number 10. Skull Island Reign of Kong at Islands of Adventure. When this ride first opened, there was quite a bit of hype. It had been years since the classic Kongfrontation ride closed down, and people expected an epic return for the giant gorilla. For this ride, Universal dipped into their King Kong 360 experience from their Hollywood tram tour and expanded on it a bit. To be fair, the whole thing starts off really strong. The exterior is visually astounding, and the outdoor portion is a pretty exciting setup. When you enter the cave, there are some solid-looking bat animatronics too, along with a bonus scene that wasn't on the Hollywood version. Of course, you can't talk about this ride without praising that massive Kong animatronic at the end. The design and movements are simply astonishing, and it's clear that a lot of time, effort, and talented engineering went into creating it. Seeing it up close really does feel like you're in the middle of a Hollywood movie. Unfortunately, everything in between doesn't quite live up to that potential. The majority of the ride is just a long screen tunnel. You get a bit of motion synced up with the action on screen, but not much else. It's basically just the recycled segments from the Hollywood tram tour stretched out into its own attraction. And ever since they removed the 3D glasses a while back, it's even less immersive now. It's unknown exactly why they removed the 3D, but it's likely to make operations easier and less expensive, as now they don't have to worry about cleaning and handing out glasses. Aside from that though, even before the 3D's removal, the big problem people had with this ride is that it didn't stack up to the original Kongfrontation. On that ride, you got to see King Kong's full body, and it was arguably more visually impressive. On that ride, Kong was attacking your vehicle, and some have argued that the antagonistic Kong was more exciting on a ride than the heroic Kong that Skull Island has. Plus, it had a full set to move through and didn't rely on screens for its setting. For these reasons, Skull Island is said to be a major step down. That doesn't mean the ride is completely horrible, and it does have its fans. As it is, Skull Island is worth giving a shot, and it is said to still get lines. But to many, it's a relic of a less impressive era of attractions for Universal. Number 9. Dragon Challenge with No Duel at Islands of Adventure. Now before your head explodes like in David Cronenberg's Scanners, this was at one point perhaps the best ride experience in the park. Formerly known as Dueling Dragons, this was the star attraction of the now on life support Lost Continent area of the park. Built by Swiss manufacturer Bolliger & Mabillard, this attraction consisted of two inverted roller coasters with interacting layouts. At several points, the ride vehicles on each track would have thrilling crossover moments. Perhaps the most notable segment was the part where both trains seemed to be inches away from a head-on collision. Suddenly, though, they swooped upwards into a vertical loop element. I myself have incredible memories of experiencing this coaster in 2003 and 2011. The ride experience was rethemed to fit in with the newly opened Hogsmeade section of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. The coasters, formerly named Fire and Ice, were changed to the Chinese Fireball and Hungarian Horntail respectively. Though they didn't receive new paint jobs, and aside from removing the awesome dragon statues at the entrance, nothing else really changed with the ride. Sadly, not long after this retheme, a terrifying accident occurred that led to a tourist losing his eye. Apparently, and this is not 100% confirmed, someone's shoe came off during one of the loops and hit the man in the face at full speed. Likely for insurance reasons, Universal made the decision to disable the dueling feature permanently to avoid another incident like that happening. Though a reasonable reaction from a business and safety perspective, the result was a ride that wasn't nearly as exciting as it used to be. And as if that weren't bad enough, many argued that the coasters, especially the Hungarian Horntail side, had become extremely rough and uncomfortable over the years. As the park had continued to evolve throughout the 2010s, the coasters had become much less popular and arguably out of place among the more modern and intricately themed attractions. So in 2017, it was announced that both coasters would be torn down. Shortly thereafter, construction began on Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. This new family launch coaster would be built by Swiss manufacturer Intamin and was said to be the most expensive roller coaster ever built at the time, with a price tag of around $300 million. With animatronics, a variety of thrilling elements, and S-tier level theming, this one-of-a-kind attraction received universal acclaim from park fans. Get it? Universal acclaim? I'll shut up. As for Dragon Challenge though, while it will be remembered for its good times, it's easy to see why it was a mediocre attraction in its final years. Number 8. Shrek 4D at various Universal parks. Now, as nostalgic as Shrek is, this attraction is undoubtedly past its prime. This is one of those attractions that barely classifies as a ride, only doing so because the seats do in fact move. Though it closed at Universal Studios Hollywood in 2017 and Universal Studios Florida in 2022, it continues to operate at Universal Studios Japan and Universal Studios Singapore. It's worth noting that it also ran at Australia's Warner Bros. Movie World and Germany's Movie Park Germany, but those installations are also defunct. First opening in 2003, this attraction is a 4D show in which effects in the theater are timed to what's happening on screen. The plot of this ride takes place immediately after the first film. After Shrek and Princess Fiona get married, they're on their way to a hotel for their honeymoon. But suddenly, one of Lord Farquaad's henchmen shows up and kidnaps Fiona. As it turns out, Farquaad, who got eaten by a dragon in the first movie, wants to kill Fiona so that they can rule the underworld together. It's actually a pretty dark plot. Now on the actual ride, guests are seated in seats that move in sync with the action on screen. On the back of each seat, and on the ceiling in the front row, there are water sprayers that activate during moments with splashes. There are also air blasters, as well as special lighting effects, projections on the walls, and leg ticklers. Now here's a fun fact about leg ticklers. In one scene, a bunch of spiders fall down and appear to crawl along the floor of the theater. If you've ever wondered what you felt on your legs during this scene, it was a small, flexible plastic tube hooked up to a pneumatic device. The device would shake the tube, giving the illusion that something was underneath you. You can see examples on this vertical dark ride that I covered in my previous video. As 4D shows go, this was a great attraction for its time, but the fact was it simply didn't age that well. For one thing, the seat movements were said to be rough and uncomfortable. YouTuber Theme Park Avenue said in his video review, the seats bump really hard backwards and forwards, and it actually is kind of painful. Like, this is the most painful ride in the park, no doubt. It was a decent time waster, and it was nostalgic to many, but by the time it closed in California and later Florida, it paled in comparison to the industry's newer, more technically advanced attractions. Plus, for a while, this ride film was available on Netflix, and I recently bought it on YouTube for about $3. If you really want the 3D back, you can find this on DVD as Shrek 3D and act out this attraction in your living room. Now, I would love to see someone go all out and make a homemade version of the attraction with leg ticklers and all. Now that would be epic. There's no doubt many people have fond memories of Shrek 4D, but its time has passed. Number 7. The Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit at Universal Studios Florida. Built by Mara Rides, this was one of the company's X-Coaster models with an interesting bonus feature. On each restraint, there was a small screen that allowed passengers to pick songs to play during the ride. Each seat had its own speakers in the headrests, so everyone would get to pick a song and hear it. The song list was long and impressive, with some of my personal favorites being Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys and Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue. Although there were no inversions, the coaster did have a decent-sized layout, with thrilling dips, bank turns, and a non-inverting loop. So what was the problem? Well, over the years, many have criticized the coaster for its roughness. Enthusiasts have also pointed out the excessive amount of mid-course brake runs, which were said to completely kill the pacing. Orion would have loved it for this. On top of everything, despite the hefty $45 million price tag, some said the coaster felt like a cheap addition that lacked theming. Many argued the high price tag more likely than not included the onboard audio system and all of the licenses to use the songs. Over the years, the crowds for this attraction would dwindle as newer attractions took center stage. By the early 2020s, the coaster was on its last legs, and the song selection was greatly reduced. As of right now, a new Ghostbusters-themed coaster is said to be the eventual replacement. Hopefully, it will be more well-themed than its predecessor. Now, although you can't listen to hit songs on this coaster anymore, you can listen to hit songs with this video's sponsor, Raycon. The holidays are coming fast, and things are going to get so crazy, you might end up wearing sunglasses in the house at night. And while you're getting your holiday errands done, you can make your work more fun with Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds. These earbuds are super convenient and easy to use. All you gotta do is slip them on just like this, and they sit right outside your ear canal, so while you're getting your work done, you can still be aware of the sounds in your environment, such as maybe the house phone ringing. And although they sit outside your ear canal, they stay in no matter which direction you turn your head. Super awesome. So whether you're cooking or getting chores done, you can stay entertained the whole time and still be aware of your surroundings. I especially like using them to play my favorite songs while I'm on a walk. These earphones also have a 36-hour battery life and multi-point connectivity, so you can switch between devices. And the best part? Raycon delivers the same premium sound as the big brands at half the price, with over 3 million happy customers and a 30-day happiness guarantee. I use these earbuds, and you should too. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/themeparkcrazyopen to get 30% off during Raycon's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. That's buyraycon.com/themeparkcrazyopen. Special thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Number 6. The Simpsons Ride at Universal Studios Florida. It's clear to see why so many feel that Universal Studios Florida is the least desirable of the Universal parks. Main reason being is that the attractions are mostly screen-based, and the Simpsons Ride is no different. First opening in 2008, this attraction replaced the fan-favorite Back to the Future ride. That ride, which was a motion simulator built by Intamin, took guests on a thrilling DeLorean ride to the past. Of course, Doc Brown joined via a screen, though admittedly, it was much more thrilling meeting Doc Brown in real life. By the late 2000s, Universal wanted to move on to attractions that featured more recent intellectual properties. So the Back to the Future ride was replaced with the Simpsons Ride. Despite an upgrade in the technology, though, the core ride experience was largely the same. Only this time, guests experienced a CGI-animated Simpsons film centered on Sideshow Bob terrorizing the Simpsons family at the Krusty Land amusement park. For the time, the ride was fine for what it was, and with the recent release of the acclaimed Simpsons movie, the series had seen somewhat of a resurgence in popularity. But once again, it didn't age very well. The bigger problem people seem to have with the Simpsons ride, though, is that the jerky movements and constant motion on screen can easily cause motion sickness. This is the case even for those who aren't super sensitive to it. And above all else, many love the Back to the Future ride so much that they absolutely despise this attraction on instinct just for replacing it. I personally think it's an alright time waster, but it's clear to see why some people want this ride to be replaced ASAP. Now, the problem with that is that you'd be taking out the star attraction of the Simpsons-themed land, an area that's actually one of the better ones at Universal Studios Florida. If they could replace it with a newer, more immersive Simpsons ride, that would be a major step up. As it stands, though, the ride can't help but be overshadowed by its predecessor's legacy. Number 5. The Cat in the Hat at Islands of Adventure. This ride was notable enough for me to make an entire video about. In case you haven't seen it, I'll link it in a card in the corner of the screen and in the description below. In that video, I went in detail on the bizarre history and downfall of this once promising dark ride based on Dr. Seuss's classic story. When it first opened, The Cat in the Hat was actually pretty impressive for a family ride. It closely followed the story of the book, had creative sets, and even featured a spinning ride system that made the experience surprisingly dynamic. But over the years, this attraction quickly went downhill. The animatronics, which were already of questionable quality to begin with, have aged terribly. The cat's hollow eyes make him look like a serial killer in a rubber cat suit. If the cat is the meat of this disaster stew, Thing 1 and Thing 2 are the vegetables, as they look like they crawled out of an analog horror nightmare. The biggest blow to the ride, though, came when Universal toned down the spinning that the experience was designed around. Scenes that once had energy now feel awkward and lifeless, and that's pretty hard to deny. It doesn't help that the audio mix is rough and sometimes hard to hear. Not to mention, the attraction breaks down a lot. Some of these breakdowns are downright terrifying, like you can see in this video by Fuss. Full video link in the description. At this point, it feels like Universal has just left it running out of obligation. After all, it is the signature attraction of the Seuss Landing area, and they do need to direct foot traffic to it somehow. Still, I'll admit, it's fascinating in a so bad it's good kind of way. Like the live-action Cat in the Hat movie, it's awkward, creepy, and weirdly entertaining. But for a park known for cutting-edge attractions, this one feels like it's long overdue for a full overhaul or a complete replacement. It just isn't up to Universal's par. Number 4. Despicable Me Minion Mayhem at various Universal parks. This is another 4D show which first opened at Universal Studios Florida in 2012 and recently opened at Universal Studios Singapore in February 2025. When it first opened, it was also a 3D attraction, though that feature was later discontinued in 2019. Whether or not you like this ride really boils down to whether or not you like the Minions. In the early 2010s, these guys were simply everywhere. They were pretty much the Labubu's of that decade. And if you don't know what a Labubu is, I'm jealous. The Minions are small, loud, have high-pitched voices, and are energetically chaotic. So naturally, more jaded adults simply don't like them and see them as the annoying precursor to brain rot. But others see them as just funny little saffron-colored guys, and many Gen Zers undoubtedly grew up watching them. As for the attraction itself, it's a high-capacity motion simulator that seats guests in cars of four. The cars sit on motion platforms that move in sync with what's happening on screen. Believe it or not, the ride technology dates all the way back to 1990. The ride originally opened as the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera before it was later rethemed to Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast in 2003. At last, it became Minion Mayhem in 2012, but it still uses the same technology. Granted, there were a few small changes made, such as increasing the size of the screen. Admittedly, the animation is solid, and the ride movie could make for a zany motion simulator. But still, it's clear that you're sitting in a theater with a big screen in front of you. It simply isn't very immersive. Compare it with something like Flight of Passage, for example. You're completely immersed in the experience there. Even those who don't like screen-based rides love it. Hell, even the original Star Tours from decades ago completely encloses you in a vehicle, doing a much better job of putting you in the universe than Minion Mayhem does. Here, you just kind of bounce around in a room, and you really have to be in the center of the screen to immerse yourself. To be fair, some people do still like it, and many have pointed out that it does have a surprisingly heartfelt ending. The ride movie, which was made by Real FX, should definitely be preserved. You have to admit, though, that the ride doesn't hold up after all of these years of using the same core technology. Now with the 3D gone, even those who love the Minions and enjoyed the original version of the ride say it simply isn't very good. Perhaps it's time to move on to something more high-tech. And speaking of Minions, number 3, Villain Con Minion Blast at Universal Studios Florida. This attraction took the place of Shrek 4D in 2023, and it's said to be much, much worse. In fact, some would say this is even less of a ride than Shrek 4D was. You know those moving walkways you stand on at the airport and at Universal's own parking lot? Well, imagine one of those, but mix it in with Toy Story Midway Mania. Now, Midway Mania is fun for what it is, a moving arcade dark ride, but this ride is a far cry from that. Here, you just stand there on a crowded moving walkway holding a blaster the entire time trying to hit targets on screens. Screens, and what? Oh, that's just more screens. On top of that, the ride, at least at the time of its opening, was said to have technical issues with so many people shooting the targets at once. With so many reticles, passengers have experienced frame rate drops, and the blasters are said to disconnect frequently. But the biggest issue that both frequent and casual guests seem to have is that they simply do not want to stand up on a ride in the middle of walking through the park on a long day. Imagine walking tens of thousands of steps, and yeah, there's a building with air conditioning, but you have to stand up. Also, is it just me, or can I find this background in the stock footage library I'm subscribed to? Well, something like it. Either way, you could either call this a big letdown or par for the course when it comes to Minion-based rides. Number 2, Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon at Universal Studios Florida. Like with the Minions, how you feel about this ride really depends on whether or not you like Jimmy Fallon. And judging from where it rated in the polls I conducted, a lot of people clearly dislike his shtick. Now, for those who are unaware of the context or are too young to remember, Jimmy Fallon took over The Tonight Show from Jay Leno in 2014. The show proceeded to get a major ratings boost, making Fallon a household name. His interviews with various celebrities became instant water cooler talk, and his segments and recurring characters went viral. Even still, plenty of people came to dislike his act. Even back when he was on SNL, some people, including Tracy Morgan at the time, pointed out that his tendency to crack up laughing during the sketches was unprofessional. Some accused him of trying too hard to be likable and seeming inauthentic in the process. His talk show is also dismissed by many as fluff, and some say he is incapable of asking the tough kind of questions that other late-night shows would. To put it simply, many just don't find him funny and find his act to be annoying at times. Uncoincidentally enough, these particular criticisms are the one that people have of his ride at Universal. Now, before we get into the ride itself, it's worth mentioning that the queue and pre-show are actually pretty well received. You are greeted by several displays of the past hosts of The Tonight Show. There's even one for Conan O'Brien's very short run. To see these Smithsonian-esque exhibits in the queue area is actually really cool. You've also got this small stage with live performances from the Ragtime Gal Barbershop Quartet and #ThePanda. To top it all off, a video segment with Fallon and his show's band The Roots do a hip-hop rendition of the safety instructions, which many found to be creative. The effort to include real performers instead of all screens is laudable. That said, many say the ride itself is less than stellar. Much like Shrek 4D, this is a 3D movie with moving seats. In the ride film, Jimmy Fallon challenges the audience to a race for some reason, and the first one to complete the course wins a trophy. Throughout the whole ride, you have Fallon's humorous or obnoxious narration depending on your opinion of him, as you go on a high-speed race through New York City. During the whole way though, Fallon tries to cheat multiple times by throwing pizza and launching t-shirts at you. During the film, there are cameo appearances from his character Sarah with no H, as well as the aforementioned Roots, the Ragtime Gals, and #ThePanda. The panda, by the way, grows to massive size for no explained reason. Even Fallon is confused as to why he got so giant.
And why are you 300 feet tall?
I'll tell you exactly why he's that big. It's because he wanted to throw in a cliched King Kong reference. Wait a minute. King Kong, and then a shark comes by? Okay. I think these are supposed to be references to Kongfrontation in the Jaws ride. In that regard, I gotta give this ride some credit. Overall, people have called the premise extremely random and say the ride fails to stand out from Universal's countless other screen-based attractions. And for those who really don't like Fallon, it's insanely annoying. At the very least, it does have an interesting queue area. And I have seen people say that they are fans of this ride, but that isn't so much the case for number 1, Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal Studios Florida. From the early to mid-2010s, the Fast and Furious franchise was white hot. But let's be honest, the franchise peaked in 2015 with the release of Furious 7, and the films have gotten progressively worse with each entry since then. You know your franchise has jumped the shark when you're suddenly going into space. Regardless of the franchise's diminishing returns, Universal still clearly sees dollar signs with this IP. There's a coaster in Hollywood said to open soon, and a horrendous ride continuing to operate in Orlando. First opening in 2018, this attraction was pretty much the death of Universal's screen era, and it's easy to see why. Originally opening in 2015 as part of the tram tour at Universal Studios Hollywood, the ride's origins are the exact same as Skull Island's. But where Skull Island added a high-tech animatronic and some extra scenes, this ride added nothing at all. Yes, aside from a queue featuring vehicles from the Fast and Furious films and 2 new pre-shows with live actors, the ride itself is literally just the tram tour segment ported into its own attraction in Florida. Now, when Universal first announced the attraction, there was a lot of speculation as to how it could be different from the Hollywood version. Would it be a different ride experience? Maybe have some extra scenes? Perhaps new animatronics? Maybe it would be a roller coaster even? Nope, they just took part of another ride, copied it, and pushed it somewhere else. Now, as for the ride itself, it's hilariously awful. The plot of the Florida version involves guests being invited into the garage of Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, for a party. But during the pre-show, it's explained that the FBI is about to raid the garage. Regardless, you get on a party bus and head to this quote-unquote party. And from there, the story is the exact same as the Hollywood version. Apparently, this so-called party is just a bunch of extras dancing awkwardly in front of a green screen, which was overlaid onto a backdrop. No drinks or mingling, just a bunch of people dancing, because when I think of a party, I just think of people dancing.
Everybody's dancing? Is that what you're telling me? When I hear a party, I think of dancing?
Plus, get a load of this acting.
Roman Pierce, FBI, don't move. What? I know it. That's right, party's over.
You know how long I took to iron this shirt, man? I'm not...
You're under arrest right now.
Now, usually when you see this kind of acting, the scene ends with at least one person not wearing any clothes. After this awkwardness, you get to what's supposed to be an action scene, but the visuals look like they came from a mid-2000s PS3 game. Actually, it looks worse than that. Now, the big problem here is that the footage was originally meant to be viewed with 3D glasses, but they removed the 3D from the Florida version. So as a result, visuals that were supposed to pop out look flat out silly. Of course, you have to mention the infamous scene where Vin Diesel grabs onto the bottom of a helicopter that's half his height. Now, who the hell is flying it, Chucky? As for the movement and effects, you do get some smoke and a bit of movement, but aside from that, this attraction offers absolutely nothing to guess other than an air-conditioned building to waste time in. Granted, air conditioning can be super nice on a hot day in Florida, but you can go inside any building and get that. To put it simply, people said that Universal really cheaped out on this one and went the easy copy and paste route instead of building something truly new or exciting. Mercifully, the Hollywood version closed in March of 2025, and attendance for the Florida version is said to be abysmal, so it's likely not long before that closes too. Let's just hope something significantly better replaces it. So what did you think of this list? Do you agree, disagree, somewhere in between? Feel free to comment down below.
Now it's time for the comment shoutout program. This is where I take 5 random comments from my previous video and read them out.
These comments come from my video on 10 surreal strange dark rides you never saw. ManCave10369 says, "What?" DB Radar says, "That last one, first your reaction to the cutoff sentence, then followed by all the laughing, I couldn't contain myself." Reign of Aurora says, "Mom, I want to go on the Disney World Frozen Ever After ride. We have Frozen Ever After at home. Frozen Ever After at home, 1758. Shadowplay29 says, "I love Terminus. That awful Real Madrid ride just makes me sad." And Tamara Caroline 8039 says, "Not me freaking out cause of Big Bird."
If you want to see your words in my next video, leave a comment down below and it may be selected. Please note though that inflammatory or spam comments will not be read. Thank you all so much, and if you want to support me on Patreon, you can do so once again at the link in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media on Instagram and Facebook, or you can check out my website at themeparkcrazy.com. And I'm on TikTok. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.